The very moment the person you once loved stops feeling safe. Your heart knows it, even before your mind does. Has that ever happened to you? Because there is a moment most survivors can't unsee once they see it. Not because it's dramatic, not because it's violent, but because it's quiet. A look that maybe lingers too long. A question delivered like a warning. A tone sharp enough to draw blood without ever raising a hand. It's the moment love slips out of the room and fear takes its place. This is Annie's story, and I'm telling it for her. It happened on a Thursday night. Bella's school held a PTA meeting after dinner. You know, the kind where parents sit around and they talk about field trips and other things like that. But Annie almost never went. Santino was usually home at that hour, and he didn't like her being out unless it was something that he approved. But this night, he had been unusually gentle. He kissed Bella goodnight, told Annie to enjoy herself, and he settled into the nightly news. Moments like that almost gave her hope that things were going to be normal in her house for once. Well, anyway, the meeting wraps up, and two of the moms invite Annie to grab a late dinner at a nearby diner. They weren't close friends. They were just really nice women who had noticed that Annie spent a lot of time alone. And for a moment, Annie hesitated. She could already hear the questions Santino would ask. But she also hadn't shared a simple meal with anybody in so long, so she said yes. The three women slid into a booth and ordered sandwiches and coffee, and they talked about their kids. And one of the women told a story about her teenage son who burned some spaghetti sauce and set off alarms and all of this, and the women were just laughing. And Annie did too. Not weirdly or loudly, just freely and naturally, just like herself. Well, when she got home, she knew before the door even opened that something was wrong. The lights were all on. The house was quiet, not peaceful quiet, charged, silent. Santino was sitting at the kitchen table, his hands folded, staring at the doorway like he had been waiting for her exact footsteps. "You're late," he said. She glanced at the clock. She didn't feel like she was that late. She nodded. The meeting ran a little long, and then some of the moms, he cut her off with a smile that never reached his eyes. You know that kind of smile. Yeah, I know. Something cold slid down her spine. "You know?" she asked, and he tilted his head slightly, studying her like she was a puzzle with some missing piece. "You had a good time." And there was a pause. You know, laughing like that. Her breath stalled. She hadn't told him she went anywhere after the meeting. She hadn't told him that she had laughed. She hadn't told him a single detail about the night. The diner wasn't like it was on its way home. There was no one there that knew him. There was no reason he should know what happened inside that diner, how she laughed, or anything. And then he said it. "You think I don't notice when people are laughing about me?" And her stomach dropped. About him? What was he talking about? They hadn't mentioned him once. But his expression hardened, solidifying a narrative that she would never be able to disprove. "You think I don't see things?" he said. "You think I don't know when I'm being made the butt of the joke?" Annie stood frozen in the doorway. Her coat was still on, her keys still in her hand. And in that second, that chilling second, she realized something. He saw her. He saw something he shouldn't have seen. Whether he followed her, drove past the diner, or watched from somewhere that she didn't notice, he just knew too much about what on that evening. And her body reacted before her thoughts could even catch up. That was the moment love turned into fear. It wasn't with shouting, not with violence, but with a man who should not have known what he knew. He was standing in the doorway of her home, telling her that her laughter was an offense, and somehow she would be paying for it. If you've lived this, you know the feeling. It's never the loud moments that stay with you. It's the quiet ones, the ones where his voice is calm, just too calm, and you can feel something dangerous beneath the surface. It's when a harmless joke becomes an accusation, when a small smile becomes evidence, when joy becomes a threat. You weren't imagining it. You definitely weren't too sensitive. Your body knew what your heart did not want to accept. You weren't safe with someone who claimed to love you. And realizing that changes everything. It's the beginning of the end of who you used to be. And it's the first small spark of who you will become. So this one is for every person who ever walked through the door smiling, only to have that smile interrogated. For every time you felt watched, monitored, followed even when there wasn't proof. For every moment you sensed danger from someone who claimed they'd never hurt you. Your instincts were right. Your fear was real. And your laughter, it was never, ever a crime. You didn't deserve any of it. Not then, not now, and not ever. I'm Keil Hackley, attorney, author of the book Undercurrent, and your host here on the Are You Annie podcast. Annie's story is about what she lived through, and it's painfully real for so many of us. Naming these moments is how we take our power back, how we reclaim our breath, our voice, our identity, and our truth. As always, please remember you are stronger than you ever knew. You are a warrior against narcissistic abuse, and you are tenacious, and you're never, ever going to give up on what's important to you. Thank you for being here and for always showing up. Thank you for your comments, for your stories. It's what makes this podcast rich and authentic. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, remember that you are not alone here. And please take good care of yourself. Thank you. And bye.